Okay, I think we're all good right now. Okay, welcome everyone. We're very glad to have you here. Today we're going to talk about very interesting things around security and how us as developers, we often ignore them. And let's welcome Monica and Espen. And I'm going to set the stage and let them present. So enjoy, and we take questions on YouTube and on Zoom if you are with us here. So don't be shy. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Irina. And welcome .NET.days. It's our pleasure to be invited to talk to you. As Irina mentioned, we'll discuss a little bit about security practices and how they impact you as developers. So please welcome Espen.
Hi, I'm called Willy Wonka amongst friends. My role is to be the director of security in VISMA. I'm a father, I'm a military man, I'm a sailor, and I'm in my fifth midlife crisis right now. So I basically embrace sailing as a fun hobby. And now one of my daughters, she would like to join us for the live stream on YouTube. Very happy to see her. This is Malena. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the presentation. Over to you, Monica.
Hi, I'm Monica Jovan. I'm head of security development. I'm also a researcher and I love to learn all the time. And on my private time, I read a lot and I love my family. And so I'm a true believer in families. Espen?
Yeah, VISMA as a company it's been around for a while. We are about 20 years old. We have 14,000 people inside right now. As a company, we are a tech company by default. We have a strategy of acquiring companies. So we buy about 40 companies a year. That means that we get lots of new people and lots of new technologies into the company for every day. So 40 a year is approximately one a week. So if you join VISMA, you will see lots of new and exciting things on a daily basis. And for a security director, it's always quite fun in this context. So as a company, I would say that VISMA is very open, very transparent, and we are very proud of our brand and proud of what we do. Back to you, Monica. I don't want to talk too much about VISMA itself, but you have some interesting facts about how we came to be in Romania, I think.
Yes, I will share a little bit about my experience with VISMA. So first time I heard about VISMA was like 12 or 13 years ago when my roommate came to me and told me that she was invited to an interview to a company called VISMA. And I asked about the details. So she told me that the interview was at 8 o'clock in the evening, and she had to go to this yellow building, which you can see, it also holds a sex shop. And this was how they describe the location of the interview. Please come to the sex shop building, and there you have to go on the second floor on apartment 4. And because she's a very pretty girl, she's like a model type of girl, I said, okay, this probably is something fishy. So I don't think you should go to the interview, because come on, who asked you to go for an interview in a sex shop building at 8 o'clock in the evening? But she had the courage to go there and she was hired. She was one of the first 10 employees in VISMA. And now we moved to the Julius Mall building in Timișoara, and we are more than 250 employees in Timișoara and 250 employees in Sibiu. The good news is that we just opened an office in Iași, and we hope that we'll have also 250 employees there soon. But we don't want to discuss about VISMA, we want to discuss about security. So I will start by telling you a story of one software developer. His name is Florin. he likes to develop. He's a young guy, and he likes to play on computer with his friends, to have pizza and beers. And he's a really fun guy. And I'm sure that many of you can understand this, and you also want to have fun and enjoy your time. But I would like you to think about Florin for a second and think about how important is security for you. Because I want to ask you if you feel that security is important or should be important. And why I'm asking you is that Florin just found out that he was hacked. So how would you feel if you'd be hacked? How would you feel if your application would be hacked? Would you feel scared? Would you feel panic? Would you be okay? Would you know how to answer to that? I don't know, but I can tell you from my personal experience, it's not fun to be hacked. And I was hacked, and it's totally not fun. It was the most stressful experience in my life. So I'm asking you, do you feel that the code that you are writing is secure? Do you feel that it cannot be hacked? Do you think that you should improve it? So if you would like to improve it, how do you think you can do that? Well, first, let's discuss a little bit about the enemies of security. Usually, people say that they don't have funds for security. This is one of the most common reasons why people don't do security, because they think it's expensive and they don't have funds for it. They do not budget it. Another reason is they consider their product too small, or the company they are working too small, and they believe that nobody is interested in hacking them. So you could ask yourself, am I too small to be hacked? Are they only interested in companies like Google and Facebook, or do you think hackers are interested in anybody? Another reason is that they believe if you have installed a firewall on your company, then you are safe. But we know that security is more than firewall. It's everything. Other things that they trust their employees, and of course, if their employees are good developers, they will implement everything very secure, and nobody will be able to use that against them. So do you think that's true? Do you think that developers know a lot about security? They know how to protect the system? Or do you think it's possible to be unhackable? Do you think that everything is so good that nobody can hack you? My experience is that no, nobody is unhackable. Everybody gets hacked. It's just a matter when. So I think it's better to be prepared. So how can you prepare for that? Usually security people say, okay, let's make some policies. But we notice that many times the policies are ignored. So then say, okay, let's give developers more things to do. Let's tell them to implement that feature, and they should do that training, and they should improve something. So developers are feeling overwhelmed, and they start to feel like they cannot do it anymore. And you can see that when you go top down, when people from upper management tells developers that they need to respect policies and they need to do many of the tasks, this will not work, and security will fail, and you'll have fireworks, but not the funny ones, but more like you see in the girl here in the picture. So what you can do then? You can try to convince developers that security is important and try to see this as their daily jobs. So let's see how you can do this and why all these policies doesn't work and throwing the responsibilities to the developers doesn't work. So let's try to understand better why this way of security doesn't work. Espen?
Yes. So I've been trying to explain security in the context of the people involved. So if you can click on the next slide, Monica. It doesn't seem like it's working here. Have the slides changed from policies are ignored to something else?
Yes, we are on safety guards.
And the safety guard, yes, because I cannot see it here. There's something wrong with my sharing.
We cannot see it either, so we're still on policies are ignored.
Yeah, yes, you're still on policies are ignored, yeah. So the sharing has not come through. I think you have to reshare, Monica.
Yes.
So while she is resharing, what we have done is that we have done lots of research, and you can read up on the research. I'm sure that Monica will share the links to both a book that we have written and also the experience reports that we have shared. And we have kind of figured out that parts of the solution to solve the security paradigm lies in understanding the different persons at play and how they interact and not interact. So how is it going, Monica? Screen sharing a bit sluggish today?
I'm sharing now. It should be there. You don't see it?
I don't see it. Andre, do you see it?
No, not yet.
It's the started screen sharing. That's all it says.
How about now?
Still black.
Something strange.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can try to share, Espen?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm happy to share my desktop. And now Andre can be our truth vector.
I can see a policeman.
So you can see, can you see a policeman now? Very good. Love it. So what we have realized is that I will try now to explain security in the paradigm seen with 4 different eyes. And those being the security officer, the development of the developer, the operations guy, and the board member, because I've experienced from all of that. So what we learned is that security people are by, for instance, developers and operations people and board members often seen like this. And these people, the security people, are often heard yelling words like ISO 27001, and they are making rules. So that is how other people in security often view security people. While security people and operations people and board members tend to watch developers like this, like kids with a laptop and poor impulse control, often heard yelling words like Jira, Confluence, and sometimes DevOps. And developers, security people, and board members tends to watch operations people like this, kind of stressed, very good at what they do, but often heard shouting words like service desk, ISO something, and backup. So, and the 4th category here is the board member. So as a security person and a developer or a operations person, you often view board members as this kind of secretive, elusive people sitting on a big table and trying to make decisions. Often heard shouting words like buy an insurance or do something. Come on, nerd harder. So when we combine all of these people, they all just want to be ninjas. That's what we all want to do, isn't it? So the security guy wants to subsume the others in their own paradigm. They want to replace the entire management with ISO 27001. The operations person wants to subsume everybody into his own paradigm and replace everything with ITIL. The developer wants to subsume everyone in their own paradigm and force everybody on DevOps. And then you have the 4th category, the board member. They want to subsume everybody in their paradigm and replace everything with financial management. But what we all have to agree is that all of us are needed if we're going to build and deliver an application. So when we work with security in VISMA, we have learned this the hard way, because if you work with security in applications, you have to talk the same language as the developers. If you want to work with security in operations, you have to talk the same language as the operations people. And as I do, I sit on many boards. That means that I also have to talk the board language. So when you combine all of this and you reflect on the fact that all of them are just humans, and what we also know about humans is that we are territorial, aren't we? So the only thing we actually have to fear, because we're all apex predators, it is ourselves. So we have to fear other humans. So then you have these 4 different clans trying to win this combat. Well, that isn't very productive. So enter the word ambidexterity. And we will not go into great depths about ambidexterity in this talk. But what we have learned through our research is that you can combine all of these. We just have to respect each other. And what better item to use then than the Quokka? So the Quokka itself is a lovely animal. Most of you might not know about the Quokka, but the Quokka is an animal that lives in Australia. And Australia is a place where basically everything, absolutely everything wants to kill you, isn't it? So, but the Quokka is a non-territorial animal. It is happy to share even food and shelter with other animals because it has been kind of living in a quite secure place. It's quite small and it's called the happiest animal in the world. So what we have learned is that when we work together and we acknowledge the fact that operations people who are really good at network and infrastructure, they are needed to develop a secure or to deliver a secure application. Security people are also needed because they can challenge the narrative of the developers. Developers are, of course, important. And the board members, they're also important because they can give you the funds. So all of them have to talk the same language. And that is what I believe makes VISMA quite special to most, is that you will find technologists in the boards. You'll find people who actually understand what we are doing. You will not find pure financial management. We will find tech people all over the place. And that is what we're quite proud of. So, Monica, it's over to you. Do you want me to be your click mummy?
Yes, please.
I can be a click daddy today then. So,
so do you want to be safe? Do you want to learn more about security and how we do security in VISMA? Then let's start. Next slide. First thing that you can do is to measure where your team is regarding software security. You can do that either by trying to assess on a scale from 1 to 10, where do you think you stand? And why do you believe that? Why do you believe that you stand on that level? Like, for example, if you believe that your security is a 10, what makes you say that it's a 10? What makes you confident? But if you want a more sophisticated approach to measure your security, then you can use one of the security self-assessments. And if you search on Google, I'm sure that you'll find a lot of them. We in VISMA created our own security self-assessment. We are already on version 2, and we try to reduce the size of it. And each team in VISMA has to go through this self-assessment every year and to see if this year, so in the first year, usually they learn a lot about the topics. And I can tell you a little bit what kind of topics we have. For example, we are looking to understand the system diagram. So they have to create a diagram of their system. And based on that, they do several types of discussions like attack surface or access control quality, password storage, application misuse, and so on. So just going through this form of self-assessment, usually the developers learn a lot about security. So I think it's a really good way to understand where you stand from security point of view and to see where you can improve, because usually these types of assessment also gives you some guidance of what you can do next to ensure better security. Next slide. So if you really want to do that, then the next step will be to understand in the DevOps pipeline, where do you have implemented security activities and where not? Because we notice that security is not just a step in the end of the development, but it requires to be added in each of the pipeline steps. So yes, you need to have security measurement in the planning and in coding and in building and in testing, releases, deployment, operation, and monitoring. Each of them has specialized security activities. And if you want to be safe, you need to add them there. Next slide. So what you can do is to try to view a little bit what's on the market, what do you find on internet. And there are some organizations that handles security maturity models, and two of them are BSIM and OWASP SAM. If you click. So based on the activities that you have there, you can start before coding to think like an attacker. And how do you do that? Next slide. So you have to know that an attacker has motivation, it has a target, it has methods to attack, and it finds strategies. So what you can do is to brainstorm a little bit. And if you go to the next slide, you can think about brainstorming. I think you need to click. I think there is some, yes, more. You need to think about what your application is doing and what kind of data do you have in your application, what do you need to protect. And then you can think about what might happen to that data or to your servers or to your environment. And then you can think like who can benefit from having those data. And in the end, you can think about how this can go, how this can happen, and which vulnerabilities are making this possible and how to prevent them. So then you also can understand a little bit the risk and to see what are the chances of this to happen and what will be the effect on the company. And in this slide here, you have two of the security activities. They are a lightweight of them. It's called threat modeling and security risk management. So by thinking of these questions before you start the coding, you might find ways to protect the data that you hold or the processes that you are creating in your product, in your application. So you might consider security in your designs. If you click next, after you created this idea behind the architecture of what's needed to be done, then you have to think about how to write secure code. And if you click next, you will see that there are a lot of coding guidelines, including from Google or for CERT or from Oracle or VASP, Mozilla, and a lot of different other code guidings. So depending on what you are implementing and for what you are implementing that, you will find a lot of coding standards. It's possible, for example, if you are working in automotive industries, then you have also other standards that you need to handle. Unfortunately, security in automotive is not very good. But if you do not have standards for your area, for your domain, then you can look, for example, for standards that are coming from banking, like paying with cards, and what you have to implement in your code to make sure that this is okay from security perspective. Then if you click next, another important aspect is to consider the OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. From time to time, I think it was like from 3 years to 3 years, the OWASP organization, which is an organization that focuses on application security, is releasing the top 10 list of vulnerabilities inside of application. I think last year they released a new list, but it was only for APIs. And for web application, I think they are planning to release one this year. So you can see, for example, injection, and here is not only SQL injection, but all kinds of other injection, like also non-SQL or OS injection or LDAP. But this usually happens when you receive untrusted data from your clients and you just send it in the backend. So what you can do first thing and this will affect many of the types of vulnerabilities from here, is to never trust the information that you have from that comes from your clients, because you never know who your clients are and what they do with the data and what data they want to enter. So the idea that you should apply here is never trust the data from there and always to try to sanitize it. Then for each of these vulnerabilities on the OWASP site, you'll find also some instructions, how you can protect against it, how you can test it to make sure that it's working. You'll also have pieces of code to understand how you can really write it inside of your code, and a lot of ideas about each of these vulnerabilities. So I think this, if you are going to this OWASP top 10 and you go through each of them, you'll find ways to how to write your code to make sure that you don't have these types of vulnerabilities in your application. Next. So what you can do after you wrote your code is to scan your code. And we noticed that, for example, last year, from scanning almost 170 projects, we managed to fix more than, I think, 2,500 high issues, high vulnerabilities. And in total, since we are scanning our code, we found out more than 36,000 vulnerabilities in our code. So I think in average, we have like 0.33 vulnerabilities per each 1,000 lines of code. So imagine, based on how many lines of code your projects have, you can see how many you can find by scanning your code. In our system, we are using Coverity, and there are a lot of other free open source projects that you can use if the company that you are working doesn't permit you to buy license for such tools. But then you can do multiple types of scanning. This one that I was referring here is a static type, but you can also do dynamic scanning and or other type of scan, or you can even try to test a little bit by yourself. So if you click next, then what do you have to do is to think again like an attacker. The difference this time is that now you have to prove the vulnerabilities in your system. So first time you just think about how an attacker could attack you, but this time you are trying to prove that an attack is possible. So if you click next, so what you can do is to think outside of the box and to try to go beyond the GUI and to try to change the parameters of your API calls and to try to inspect all the requests and to try to see how much time your session stays open. Like, for example, if you have a session for receipt password, is it closed after you receive the password, or does it stay open forever? Or you can just tamper different types of information inside your application. You can try to put a lot of payloads in your fields if you have a form in your application, and just play it and see what happens. And for this one, you'll find a lot of information, and again, cheat sheets in OWASP regarding how you can put payloads for different kinds of vulnerabilities to test and see if this is possible. Of course, this part, it's a little bit more like an art. So that's why usually we have pen testers. But one solution is, if you do not have enough money to do pen testing, you can, for example, onboard to Bug Bounty, and then your application can be tested by a lot of hackers in the world. And for example, we have, I think 36 of our projects are already onboarded in Bug Bounty, and we have 2 programs. One is private, where we invite some of the best hackers from that platform, and other projects that are more mature, we put them in public, and then everybody in the world, all the hackers from that platform can test it. And we discovered that this type of testing is many times cheaper than hiring pen testers. So if you go next, what do you think? Are we secure after we did all these activities? Is everything okay, or should we do even more? If you click next, I will try to tell you a story about phishing. And you should understand that the level of security is given by the weakest link in your company. So VISMA is a really great company. It's very motivated to automate everything that is possible in accountants' work. So that's why we receive emails by email, emails with invoices. So in Nordic countries, there is a law about not having anything on paper anymore. Everything is electronic, so everything goes through electronic systems. And that's why all the invoices that are received went to an application called Document Center. And from there, they go automatically to an application called VISMA Approval, where somebody has to approve the invoices. And if the person that needs to approve says that it's okay, it will be automatically paid. So what happened some time ago, I think it's 2 or 3 years ago, Espen, if I'm not mistaken.
2 years. It's about 2 years ago.
Yes, it was a smart guy that did a phishing campaign and managed to take account of somebody in a VISMA approval system, because that's the only place where you need to be involved in this payment process. So how this was possible? It was mainly because that person disabled FA. And nobody noticed the change of behavior. Everything was ignored, and the hacker was able to stay in that account, I think, for more than 4 months. And this is one aspect that you should know about hackers. They are really patient. So they are not hacking you today and tomorrow they are gone. It's possible that they stay there for years. So till they are discovered, they just stay there. So what they did, they start to send fake invoices. And of course, they were the ones who approved them. And this way they received the money. And if you click on the next slide, then what happened is that they use different bank accounts. So it's easier to catch a somebody if he used just one bank account. So what they are doing is they are moving money from one bank to the other. And if you click on the next one, then you will see that this guy were able to steal more than 700,000 euros before anybody discovered this. Of course, if this will be my money, I will go after him. And I think this is what VISMA did. I'm not sure, Espen, if you want to share the rest of the story.
Yeah, I can share. I can also give you a small hint at the beginning, because the actual starting point was that the one who was basically frauded here. So let's just play with the idea that his name was Andrei, because I can see Andrei in front of me. So Andrei, he worked as a kind of accountant, and he had lots of customers. And Andrei was sloppy. So Andrei had disabled his two-factor authentication, and he also used the same password on several places. So the actual password was stolen outside of the VISMA ecosystem, and it was just reused inside. So in this case, the money, we also do lots of work. Since I'm an ex-military guy, I also know this kind of government systems. So we work together with the different financial certs, different banks, and the banks was able to stop some of that money to make the kind of blow a bit softer for the customer. But this is kind of the key of this. The hackers are quite smart, and we love these hackers. This kind of hacker I don't love. I don't like him at all. So that's why we always go after them. And we hunt them. We always hunt them. But more on that later. But this guy is something to learn from. Always use two-factor authentication. Well, that's a given if you can. Don't turn it off, and always watch for your anomalies.
Yes, and the phishing campaigns are still going. They are still coming up. Hackers will still use them. And I don't think it's the fault of our customers that they fall into this trap. So I think it's very important that we try to protect them. So how we can do that, if you click on the next slide, is force 2FA in your application by default. Don't allow your users to disable it. Try to have anomaly detection on logins. Like, for example, if the user always log in from Oslo and suddenly you see that he logins from Denmark, then probably something is wrong there. So try to notify the user if something is strange, and always audit the logs, and always send notification if something looks fishy. It's better to send notifications than just to ignore them. Next slide. So when you have this kind of cases, what you can do?
I can talk a bit about this. Is it okay, Monica?
Yes.
So cyber threat intelligence, and since we are streaming live, I cannot share with you the details of the application, which I have been kind of looking forward to do, but I can instead talk about this. So yes, we do have our own intelligence center, and we are always looking for people who are curious. So when we use cyber threat intelligence, some people just ask themselves, wow, what is this? Is it just super cool? And what is it? But cyber threat intelligence is, well, it's in a word. What we do is that we harvest intelligence. We harvest information from the criminals, and we analyze this and we put this into context. So for instance, if one of our customers, their credentials is up for sale on dark web, we try to notify them, because criminals are, well, criminals. They're very good at stealing things, but they're not very good at protecting things most of the time. So it's not impossible to monitor these guys. And as we mentioned earlier, anything can be hacked. Yeah, we also know how to hack. That's not a big surprise. So what we do with cyber threat intelligence is that we try to figure out how the attackers think. We try to familiarize ourselves with them. And we also try to harvest information that we need to protect our customers and protect our assets. And this is really a rewarding part of VISMA. We have democratized intelligence completely within VISMA. That means that if you remember those 4 characters I mentioned earlier, the kind of security guy, the operations guy, the developer, and the board member, they all get the same intelligence sharing across the company. And we're a global company. So that means that if you are a developer in VISMA, you will always have available high quality intelligence from the field to know about how your attackers think. You will be able to follow the operations from nation states, because that's also visible on the internet, because everything that is on the internet will remain on the internet. So you can always look for traces and clues. So in the case that we discussed now with the phishing incident and the kind of fraudster who tried to steal money, of course we go after them. And if you're into this kind of thing, why not join us? Go on hunts, hunt for criminals. It's really fun. It's quite rewarding when you go on hunts, but you have to be quite good at what you do. So we're always looking for the best. So if you do have special interest within the field of intelligence, or maybe if you come from a work in intelligence in some kind of either military or police or private sector, you're always welcome. We're always looking for talent, and especially that field. And for the rest of VISMA, they also draw lots of good experiences from the field of cyber threat intelligence. And there is so much to learn out there. So if you're a continuous learner and you would like to learn more about cyber threat intelligence, please come to us. We have lots of good people in this field, but we do need more. So what I would like also to mention to you is that we try to simplify reality for our developers, our operations persons, our security people, and also for our board members. So what you see in front of you right now, it is the index system that we have made. And Monica has also been part of making this, and many other people has been taking part in this, but we have made this ourselves because it wasn't on the market. We couldn't find anything like this. So, and this is how we basically manage managing directors. So
Sorry,
what you see in front of you.
I apologize.
Yeah, Andre?
I only see a white screen. I don't know if others have the same problem.
Okay, so the sharing has stopped. Give me a second. I will try to reshare. I will stop my sharing and then I'll share
I can
again.
see now something with
So what can you
dashboards.
do?
Yes, now it's okay. Now it's the maturity index.
So it's the maturity index that's come back now. Okay, good.
Yes.
Then I can continue my sharing. So on top, and Andre, can you verify? Can you see a screen?
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. So this is how we manage the managing directors. And just again, Andre, can you see smileys now?
I can see the smileys.
Very good, then everything works. So you can see two different services here. The one on top is a service which have a very low risk rating. So you can see it has an A+ score. Basically what it means is on top left, you can see points. The points are risk points. So as Monica has discussed earlier, we do lots of security risk analysis, but we try to democratize this so that you can see immediately as an MD if your actions really work, or as a developer if your actions really work, or as an operations personnel if your actions really work. And on the bottom, you can see that, yes, this service is struggling a bit, but we also try to give them advice. So in this case, the flat line you can see on the bottom, the trend line, the flat line is an indication for me of a management issue. This is not something else. It's just management who hasn't paid enough attention to this. On the top right, you can see something called a funding issue. So they might not have a security engineer inside the team. So haven't they really gotten around to investing more in security? Also, skill issues can be detected here. So maybe they don't have enough skills. Do we need to administer more training? Do we need to send Dr. Monica, or Dr. Jovan, or just Monica as we call her, to them to give them more competency? And how can we do this in practice? So all in all, for our context, security for us is about engaging people in their everyday life. So if you're a developer, operations personnel, a board member, or a strict security officer, it's part of your everyday life. It is not just something you do once a month on a Blue Friday. It is something you have to do every day to stay good. As Monica mentioned, we do static analysis, and we made it available for free for everybody. It's a really, really expensive system we have, but we do it to make sure that people are enabled, so they have all the tools they need to be able to develop something really securely. And for VISMA, security is of a really high importance. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the director of security, but I also know how much money we spend on this. And we spend a lot of money on security, and we are proud to spending that money. As Monica also said, the validation comes in the form of people like doing bug bounties. And we also do other things that's quite good. So this is what we call it fun security. And because of some problems with the sharing rig, I cannot share this small video with you now, but I will just try to give you some examples instead. So when we do security, we never point fingers and say that you have done a boo-boo. We ask people to share their stories. As Monica testified to, she has been hacked, and she has proudly shared her story. She shared that story publicly. And we encourage everybody to share their stories because that's how we learn. So if your application is broken, if the security of the application is broken, or if your source code is stolen, well, then we have to learn, why did this happen? We don't want to point the fingers at the one who made the boo-boo at that time, but we want to learn from it. So to try to avoid it happening again. So nobody has died, and I can see Monica is more healthy than ever. So this obviously was something you could survive from, even though I know that you didn't feel well at the time. I could even remember that you were kind of thinking about quitting because you felt embarrassed. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. The hackers are omnipresent. They're everywhere. And this is why I want to kind of end with a small story about the Quokka. I mentioned the Quokkas before. So as I established earlier, we are quite territorial as creatures. We have problems with trusting others. In VISMA, we strongly believe that we have to work together as a team. And we're a big company, lots of people with lots of good competencies, but we need more. We need creative young minds. We need inquisitive people. We need people with lots of different skills, with lots of different cultural backgrounds. And when we think about this in the context of security, we have to learn from each other. So if you are interested in learning, we have lots of things to teach, but we're also really keen on learning what you know. Because some of you come from school with new skill sets and you really want to get your hands dirty when it comes to security. So of course you're invited at any given time to test the security of VISMA. We do have a responsible disclosure program. So if you would like to test your skills, go find a VISMA service. Go to visma.com/responsible security and see if there's something there that you would like to try your skill set. And if you're good, if you are really good, you can end up on the Hall of Fame. Just make sure you don't end up on my Hall of Shame, because that is if you don't follow the kind of advice we give. So please share responsibly. If you find vulnerabilities in VISMA, we really want to know about this and we really want to fix it. And this is also something to think about, because if you work in VISMA, you have to have that mindset. You should be okay with other people probing at your service and testing your service and testing your security, because that's how you learn. If you have the mindset that I will build an application, it will be uber secure and I will deploy it to Amazon tomorrow and nobody will ever test it, well, then you don't have the right stuff. You need to be able to let other people test your work. And that's something we're quite proud of. We try to work with this together. If you're still curious, there's lots of good material out there. And I know that there is also, and she's been trying to hide it, Monica, boo-boo. On the lower left side, you can see some of the research that we have published. And Monica is a bloody good researcher. And she's also, the research on empowering is really mesmerizing, and I recommend you to read it. I've also taken part in writing a book chapter in PhD level on product security. And I've also been told now, Monica, that I'm allowed to give out PDF copies of that if someone reaches out to me directly. So, but I will, of course, administer that same right to you, Monica. If anyone would like to read this book, you can just reach out to Monica and she will send you a PDF copy. And it's free. It's allowed to. I don't break any laws when I do that. And also the other videos that we try to share. We're also on Twitch. We do podcasts. So if you really want to be into security and have fun, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, there was a question here from Andre, and then Alex Bersan. Yeah, dependency confusion. That's a nice thing, Andre. That was a big thing for us. The dependency confusion thing. I remember that. That was a really fun day at work. We even made videos for all the MDs to make them realize that this is really serious stuff. And you can also find on GitHub. If you go to VISMA Product Sec, you can find tools to deal with dependency confusion that we have shared. A couple of the toolkits out there, they're open source, and we try to contribute to open source as best we can. You can even find something really cool there if you're into bug bounty, a bug bounty portal We have shared the actual source code with you. So now you know which bug bounty portal we use. If you hack that one, then you're good, because that's made by some of our best. That's a good challenge, isn't it, Monica?
Yes, it is.
So I really encourage you to consider VISMA as a possible future employer. I know that I'm quite happy here. I think Monica is, and I think most of the people are enjoying it. And we're building a new place in this wonderful city. And I'm so looking forward to getting there, because here it's bloody cold, and I'm in Norway right now. So I'm hoping to get to someplace warmer quite soon. So
yeah, I can tell you for sure that Yash is a wonderful city. I visited 2 years ago, and it's really, really nice to visit, and very good food.
oh, you don't have to eat that that belly that you served me the one time, that soup.
No. There are other specialties there, very good ones.
Oh, thank you. Because that soup was too powerful for me. I don't know what it's called, Monica. Maybe you know the Romanian word?
Soup, ciorbă de burtă.
Oh, yeah. So now you know what I was subjected to. But that was quite heavy food for me. So thank you for your